Disintegration is the first game from V1 Interactive, a company helmed by Marcus Leto, one of the co-creators of Halo, and Mike Gutman, a co-founder of SOCOM US Navy SEALs. Does Disintegration manage to thrive in an FPS RTS hybrid?
I remember thinking you were cool, man.
Or does it fail to stake a claim in this new type of genre? Find out in our review. The story of Disintegration kicks off with your character, Romer Shaw, breaking out of a floating prison fortress and joining forces with some other robots. Although they're not technically robots. You see, humanity was able to place squishy human brains inside of robot bodies, making humans stronger, faster, and sturdier. You get to keep your memories and your mind, but your body has been upgraded. This whole process is called integration. Some people want to integrate, others don't. Unfortunately, there's a sect of human robots out there called the Rayon, and they don't much care for fleshy humans anymore. One of their leaders, Black Shuck, would very much like to annihilate any remaining humans and have humanity exist solely as robots.
Let your eyes see red. Leave those weak and nostalgic ideas behind.
I've seen what you call freedom. Not interested.
From here, Romer and his crew will work together, fighting the Rayon, and putting a stop to Black Shuck's plans. And that's about where the fun stops.
That's a little cold-hearted, don't you think?
While Disintegration's story setup is interesting, basically everything else in the game leaves much to be desired.
Now we'll see how we fight together.
Problems begin almost immediately. The controller functionality in Disintegration is questionable at best. Aiming does not feel good, and a look at the setting shows options that make little sense to the average gamer. What does controller exponential ramp mean? How would controller ease help, and should it be switched on or off, or should the amount be changed? Without tinkering with these, the aiming feels like the dead zones are way too big with too much acceleration. In terms of combat, there's a massive disconnect between the players and the battles themselves. And that's in part because of the perspective. You're floating above the combat in a hovercraft, with weaponry that doesn't quite stack up.
Now that's about as dangerous as these pesky gnats.
You do, however, have a squad of 1 to 4 units you can command. These squad members each have a unique ability, like a grenade that staggers enemies, or a slowing field that inhibits movement and attacks. Players will need to issue commands telling the squad members where to go, who to shoot, and when to use their abilities.
Focusing fire!
Unfortunately, the strategy systems are one-dimensional. With no way to control individual units, you're left moving your squad as a whole group, no matter what. Even if one of them is injured, they'll still march on into the fight. There's no way to position them with any precision given. You can't give them orders individually. In the end, having squad members rarely offers any interesting gameplay strategies. It simply takes away abilities that could have been tied to the graph cycle. To further exacerbate this problem, the player has no control over what squad members they take into a mission, or any control over what weapons the graph cycle has equipped. For a game that touts itself as a FPS RTS hybrid, there's a startling lack of kit customization.
Wait a sec, you're cool with that?
Yeah, you're gonna need all the help you can get.
The graph cycle itself is severely limited in both movement and attack. While you can hover, there are fences built 1 inch higher than you can float, and invisible walls everywhere. Though the graph cycle does have a built-in boost and fast turning speed, it moves at a snail's pace. It just doesn't feel very good to fly, and you can't even use it as a ram to damage enemies or bash through destructible pieces in the environment. There are also a myriad of other design and technical problems with Disintegration. For example, the mission failed screen offers little to no information on why you failed the mission. Was I out of bounds? Did an ally die? Or did an objective explode? It also takes a whole squad to open up a single chest, which makes looting several chests on the battlefield a very time-consuming matter. Enemy units frequently clip into one another and into the environment. The lip syncing is particularly awful, with characters' mouths moving when the dialogue is finished or vice versa.
Much better. A reasonable outlaw. We may have more of interest to you than guns.
Waypoints can glitch out and float in the air, and sometimes mission progress can stall, requiring a revert to the last checkpoint. Not only does Disintegration's gameplay feel dated, it also looks dated. The art style itself is safe, despite its unique story premise. The environments could be plucked out of any post-apocalyptic setting, and the skyboxes are all but empty. In terms of multiplayer, the situation isn't much better. While the combat can be a bit frantic and chaotic, offering snippets of fun, I hate to say that it did not leave me wanting to play more.
Victory!
Unlike single player, players get the option of what crew to take into each match. Each crew has different weapons and squad mates, allowing for some actual decisions to be made. Unfortunately, there are some crews that are undeniably worse than others. On top of this, controlling the squad members in multiplayer winds up an afterthought, as they can take ages to walk where you tell them to, or need to get into position when you ask them to lob a grenade or a slow field. Then there are the maps, which never really capitalize on the fact that you're in a flying vehicle. Each map is basically a relatively flat field with broken sightlines. None of the maps we played offered much verticality or risky maneuvering strategies.
Why would he do that? And why didn't someone say something?
Overall, Disintegration fails to take advantage of the genres it mixes together. It doesn't feel particularly good as an FPS, and it lacks the finer strategy elements of an RTS game. With the myriad of design and technical problems, it just doesn't feel up to scratch for a game releasing in 2020. For more video reviews and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.